This episode is brought to you by Zencastr. Zencastr is the #1 tool for all podcasters. You can record high-fidelity audio between remote locations and get studio-quality sound. Go to Zencastr.com and use coupon code THATENTERTAINS for 20% off for 3 months or 20% off an annual plan.
Everything is Awesome is part of Courts and Parts, a podcast network featuring pop culture, TV, movie, and geek podcasts. Check out some of our other shows, like TV Ate My Brain, Let's Chat with Revelin Friends, and Podstalgic at courtsandparts.com.
Awesome. Just tell people they're awesome and mean it.
Awesome.
Awesome. Awesome.
Did you have an awesome time? Did you drink awesome shooters and listen to awesome music and then just sit around and soak up each other's awesomeness?
Awesome. 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 That was awesome. You guys are awesome. No, you're awesome. No, you are awesome.
Sir, you are awesome. Seriously.
Awesome. Awesome. Awesome.
Everything is awesome.
Welcome to this week's edition of Everything is Awesome. I am your host, Kev, and this is the show where we sit down and talk to awesome people about awesome things. Now, I have to apologize ahead of time as I sit here and do these intros and outros. As you heard me say in the previous episode with Hal Lublin, I'm on Weight Watchers, so I'm doing my normal time to sit around and do these intros and outros are usually when I'm at my day job, at my lunch hour, and I spend my lunch hour getting some extra steps in, getting that step count up, getting my fit points up, trying to just be a better Kev, build a better Kev, that's all, trying to be healthy. Anyway, so we are continuing our celebration. We are continuing our celebration of the Philadelphia Podcast Fest this week with our buddy BK Mullen, who has now been on the show, I think this is his third time, maybe fourth time on the show, including some panels that we have yet to air that they're going to be coming up later this month. But yeah, BK of the POPPIN DADCAST. He is performing at the Philadelphia Podcast Festival at Tattooed Moms on June 23rd, 3 p.m. There's going to be a ton of great shows there on the 23rd at Fit Comedy at Amalgam Comics and Coffee House. You can find a complete schedule at phillypodfest.com/schedule to see where your favorite podcast in the Philadelphia area is performing. And hey, I can tell you what, if you're not familiar with some podcasts, then just go and spend a couple hours or the whole day at these venues. Amalgam Comics and Coffee House is a great little spot in the city where you can sit down, buy some comics, drink some coffee, read your comics, or on the 23rd, you can sit around and watch some of your favorite nerdy podcasts like Voice of Free Planet X, All My Fantasy Children, Victims and Villains, and a whole ton more. You can go to Tattooed Moms and see guys like BK Mullen and Poppin' Bottles Dadcast, and there's so many shows. I don't have them memorized anymore at all. So phillypodfest.com/schedule. And of course, make sure you check out our show on July 1st at 1 p.m. Yes, that's right. We're kicking off the last day of the Philadelphia Podcast Festival at Tattooed Moms, 1 p.m. July 1st. Everything is Awesome is going to be there. Still finalizing the guests, but we finalized our game. That's right. We are going to be playing a fun game that we made ourselves called Food Fright, where we're going to have 4 food challenges and 4 prizes to give out. We're going to have an Oreo challenge. We're going to have the Bean Boozled challenge. We're going to have a Donut challenge, and we're going to have the Pocky Chip challenge, baby. And don't worry, I'm not going to make the audience members do this on their own. If it's not me and Mike, it will at least be me partaking in these challenges as well. And hey, you may walk away with some cash, some free drinks, gift cards. Who knows what you'll walk away with at the Philadelphia Podcast Festival, July 1st, 1 p.m. with Everything is Awesome at Tattooed Moms. Let's kick it over to me and BK Mullen as we sit around and do what we do best right here on awesomepodcast.com. Do too much at once, you know?
Oh, no, I feel you.
I think 2 weeks behind on my reviews for the site. So, and of course, like I put on my to-do list, get them done this week when I have, you're the third interview I've done today.
Nice.
The second one I've done is since 10:30. and I don't know. I did like 3 or 4 other interviews this week,
Right.
and I sometimes forget that I need to sleep.
It's awesome being able to create the things that we want to, like to have that freedom. But then at the same time, we have no restrictions really.
Yeah.
So it's like we start loading up all the things like, yeah, I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to do this. Wait, I have no time now.
Yeah. And then, like, at least when I was writing reviews for like another site, I wasn't like, I had to get it done, or they would say you can't do it anymore.
Yeah,
Now
exactly.
it's like, if I don't get it done, like, I'm sure I might be annoying you and Ash, but I'm not, like, at the end of the day, it's like, well, no one cares. Like,
You know what? Where the way I see it, like I definitely want to be as serious as possible about what we're doing because, when we take it seriously, then other people take us seriously.
yeah.
And I just got we can talk about this more depth later, but I just got a line in to a girl who is working for DC in the department of their new streaming service that's debuting soon.
Oh.
Yeah. So I want to be able to like I immediately was like, oh, well, when I can drop it in, I gotta drop in that entertain so she can see the stuff that we're doing,
Yeah. So I guess that means we actually got to do stuff.
But yeah, like, but at the same time, I'm like, we're in the first couple of weeks of this thing. We're gonna get on it at some point. We all got our lives going on and stuff too. So
Yeah, and again, like, so I my day job like really kind of took over my life,
right.
like right when No Justice came out, and then and now it's January, or not January, June, and now it's podcast festival time. So it's like,
Right.
oh god, I don't have no time to do anything.
Yeah.
And then like the panels that I like, not the panel at Greater Oaks, but the Wizard World panel, like suddenly, like that came about so quick that like it took over my life.
Yeah, the turnaround must have been insane.
Yeah, well, and it's like, I mean, we all know how the other Comic-Con, maybe I haven't made that public yet, but the Philadelphia Comic-Con in Oaks, like that, like I found out a week beforehand that it was happening.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I remember that because you emailed me the day that you got the email. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. Oh shit.
That's soon. That's real soon.
Oh, no. Yeah.
And then Wizard World, like I want to say I applied to that the Monday after I found out we were accepted at Greater Oaks, and I was like, well, I mean, I don't know why they were still accepting applications because it was 2 weeks out at that point.
Right.
But at least like there was communication, and I think I had a week and a half, 2 weeks to really prepare for it. So,
right.
and I mean, to be honest, we just did the same thing. We did the same topic. So it's not like I had to do much. But yeah, like all that happened like out of nowhere, and doing the fact that I was accepted to Wizard World just like proved to me like, all right,
dude,
I'm on my way.
Yeah,
it was amazing. Like, who knew that could happen?
Yeah, you got even if it was a small turnout or smaller than you were expecting or whatever, it's still a turnout. You're still at Wizard World. You still got your foot in the door. It's great.
Yeah, and it was, I don't know, I don't think I've said anything about this yet anywhere, save for like just private conversations, but when we got to our panel room, like the TV, so did they have a TV screen at Greater Oaks behind us, or was that just a projector or something? I think it was a projector.
I think it was a projector, yeah.
Well, Wizard World has, that's what they used years past. Now they switch everything to like an HD TV that's just sitting off to the side.
Right.
So we get to our panel room, and like first thing you see is, I don't know, probably, I would say, I think the room held like 100 and I felt like I counted 180 chairs by like quick math, but it could have been like 150 was more realistic.
Right.
And there was about, I'd say 40 to 50 people in there.
That's
and
awesome.
I was like, this seems weird. And I look in, and the TV still says the previous panel.
Right.
So I look at Mike and I'm like, I don't think this is us, man. The other panelists weren't there yet. So I was like, I think something's weird going on. So then he snuck into the room and asked one of the audience members, he's like, what are you guys here for? The Marvel panel. And he comes out and I'm like, what the fuck are we going to do? I was planning on 5 people being here, Mike. And it turned out really, really great. We reduced the number of panelists to 4. So it was me, Mike, and then we had Ariel, the owner of Amalgam Comics and Coffee House, and this girl, Kate Sheridan, who's like a local Philly artist and comic book creator.
Right.
And we had them on the panel. And 4 seems like a good number. And I don't know, because maybe it was because we fit on the stage.
Right.
And I feel like there was, when we had, I think, a total of 5 at ours, right?
Yeah, and I think having the one less person probably flowed better than the 5. Yeah. Yeah,
especially now we had the hour at Greater Oaks, but Wizard World only gave you 45 minutes. So that was a huge factor into saying leave it at 4.
Right. Because I mean, even with just 3 for an hour, could totally fill that hour with just 3 people.
Yeah.
So
and we, based off the Q&A that we did at Greater Oaks, I was like, all right, I think I know how much time to leave. We got the wrap-up signal from Wizard World staff. They're like, guys, you got to go.
Yeah.
I mean, we got 45 minutes. We took the hour.
Yeah.
Which I apologize to the Comedy Sports people because they were on after us. Because, I felt bad for taking the whole hour, but I also felt bad, like, telling people they had to stop asking questions, especially because, like, the last 3 to 4 people, the last 7 people included 2 kids that were in their like preteens,
right?
And then there was like what was clearly a special needs kid, and like just like I think the other like randos that were in there were obviously like just dying to ask questions. Right. I was like, I feel bad like cutting it off. Meanwhile, I go to the Stephen Amell panel, and the guy that's moderating that has no problem saying, "You're the last question." And same thing. I went to go see Plus 2 Comedy do a panel that day, and same thing. They just instantly cut it off. I'm like, all right, I guess I just have to be a dick. Yeah,
to a certain extent, you have to like. It's like a balance between being a fan and being a professional. So it's like, hey, I'm a fan and I get to do fan things and I get to do like this awesome panel and have people ask me questions and all that. But at the same time, I also have to treat this like a business to a certain extent. And sorry, man, but you're the last one.
Yeah. Well, and we're so I applied to do something at Keystone with I was moving away from the Marvel thing to just kind of change it up, but I think based off of like what happened with Wizard World, Mike said I should just apply for 2 more, try to do 1 each day.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna apply for 2 more, and then also I need to. They just released press applications, so I need to apply for the 2 of us, I guess, at the very least.
Yeah.
And try to get some coverage going there.
That's awesome.
But yeah, Keystone sounds like it's going to be exciting. I don't know. Did you look at the lineup for Wizard World at all?
Not really, no.
Yeah, it wasn't like, I mean, it was cool, but it wasn't super, like, for me, Stephen Amell was like the reason to go.
Right.
And then that kind of expanded upon like the rest of the Team Arrow crew that showed up. But I feel like Keystone, like that has like a really good lineup of people for me. Like there's like a lot of the Doctor Who people are going to be there. And
like the Greater Philly one too, like, the whole main cast of Black Lightning, even though it's not, as far as I know, it's not a super popular series right now, but it's a new series.
Well, I honestly think that's the reason why they they didn't like communicate properly, because Greater Oaks, I think, has been around, or that Philadelphia Comic Con, the Great Philadelphia Comic Con as they call it, I feel like has been around forever.
Yeah.
But I think this was one of their bigger years because they had the cast of Black Lightning, which I think was huge for them.
Yeah.
And Val Kilmer. I don't know how huge that was, but he was hidden away from everybody.
Yeah, dude. They had Val Kilmer, they had Michael Bain, and then
Yeah.
they also had the option to get your picture taken with both at the same time. It was called the Tombstone package. And like they had a whole bunch of Power Rangers. They had Bulk and Skull, and like it was so funny. So there was like the whole area that they had set up for those people. But then Ash and I are walking through, like we're walking towards that area, and just like tucked into like a tiny little corner booth, like at the end of a whole row of booths before you got to that section, was the dude who played the Red Ranger in season 2. Right?
Oh, yeah.
I can never remember his name. Rocky, the guy who played Rocky. The guy who played. We're just walking through, and I'm like, oh hey, cool necklaces. Oh hey, cool swords. Oh hey, there's Rocky. What the fuck? There's Rocky.
Yeah.
And he had the little Red Ranger helmet out, and he was like, just kind of standing there looking at his phone, like nobody was interested.
Well, they kept him away from the other Power Rangers, but they kept him in the celebrity area, if I remember correctly. Like he wasn't down where Hacksaw Jim Duggan was, which was the aisle.
Yeah.
But he was just kind of remotely in like the other celebrity area.
Yeah. And I'm sure that they wanted to make a point to like spread some of the people out that they were able to. You know, just so to
it just seems weird that all the other Power Rangers were with each other.
Yeah, Bulk and Skull were in the the famous person box. You know?
When it comes to Power Rangers, is anyone else been in as many iterations of the Power Rangers besides them? Maybe Tommy.
No, because the other thing is, I don't know if you've seen, but there's a like a super popular Power Rangers version of Dungeons and Dragons that is both a podcast and like a TV show, basically. And the guy who plays Bulk is one of the characters on there. He's one of the players. And
my God.
They also have on like guest spots for different episodes. Like sometimes there's, one of the old Yellow Rangers pops on or something like that for like 2 episodes as a character or something like that. But now the main cast of characters, there's one of the guys who was the Blue Ranger for like a season. And then a couple other random people like writers for whatever website, and previous, also one of the guys wrote the Power Rangers comic books for a long time. And then fucking Bulk is there with the mutton chops. Like...
Bulk, I mean, talk about eating up that character for as long as you can. Good for him.
And he's such a cool dude. Like he's never ever. I think that's the main part of his fame. Like not only that he was a part of this famous thing, but also that at panels and when he's meeting fans and stuff like that, he's totally chill. He's totally down for a photograph or whatever. You want to do a silly pose? Let's do a silly pose. That sort of deal. So
I got to imagine that like that just comes with being the fact that like you pretty much have done Power Rangers. Like I couldn't tell you anything else any of the Power Rangers have ever been in. Even like the popular ones like Amy Jo Johnson and Tommy Jason David Frank, like they've done some things, but I feel like no one's really has anyone escaped Power Rangers to go on and do like something like huge. I don't think so.
No, not huge. I mean, I think Jason David Frank is the one who has come the closest. He's like popped up in a couple of TV shows and like a couple of like in the background of a couple of movies and shit like that. And then, with his UFC career, I think if I remember correctly, he popped up in the WWE for a minute during the Attitude Era, but just as a not as a wrestler, just as a guest spot.
I'm surprised he was never tapped to play Casey Jones in some sort of iteration of the Turtles, because I feel like he has that look to play Casey Jones.
And what's funny is both for a while, both Ninja Turtles and Power Rangers were both owned by Saban. So it's like,
yeah,
and both,
remember that crossover?
yeah, and both had licensed Hasbro for their toys and shit like that. So yeah, it's like some of those guys were really cool. Like the guy who played Jason. I thought he could have done all right in something else. The guy who played Billy, like he did when you go back and watch, it's cheesy, but he did such a great job.
And I never really watched beyond Mighty Morphin. And every now and then, like my son will watch it on Netflix, whatever I think it was Dino's Thunder or something.
Yeah, Dino Charge and Super Dino Charge. Yeah.
So he watched a couple of those episodes, and I did not see the reboot movie.
I did. And
how was that?
Much of okay. It's the same, and let me explain my sentence. Okay, it's the same as Star Wars, in that I loved it back in the day when I was a kid, and now here is this new one that I have to keep in mind is still made for kids. So even though they went like an edgier version of it, so that I would be satisfied too as an older person, I still had to keep in mind that ultimately it is for preteens. So just suffer through that a little bit. And overall, it's actually a really enjoyable experience. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, like Star Wars is still, I don't know. I feel like, prequels obviously are. I like there's a generation of kids that's their Star Wars and they love it,
right.
and probably adults now or young adults.
Yeah.
But the like Force Awakens and Last Jedi, like I enjoyed those movies. Like I felt like they hit the right notes for both the new and old generations.
Yeah, for sure. Like I give. Oh God, this is so hard to talk about. I actually like the prequels, except for two things. Number one, I think Hayden Christensen was not the best choice. Maybe he was the best choice at the time, but he still he didn't have the chops yet. And I think, everybody judges Natalie Portman, but I think she suffered from having to be with Hayden Christensen all the time. But the other thing
because
was,
Natalie Portman's a great actress.
She's amazing.
I love her.
Yeah. But the other thing, the only other thing I didn't like was that it was filmed all on the blue screen, green screen bullshit.
Yeah.
The thing that really made Star Wars amazing, like back in the day, and how they're doing it now, is that balance between practical effects and CGI effects, and especially with that first series, the first trilogy, the difference was all of the other sci-fi films before it, or sci-fi stuff before that, was very clean. It was very like shiny objects and shiny outfits and stuff like that. So to have like a dirty, gritty, very real environment to have these characters in is important. And the level of CGI that George Lucas was trying to use was just wasn't ready. I'm sure he didn't want to wait another 20 years or whatever it was, but he should have.
Yeah. And he invented so much to make Star Wars what it is today. Like without Star Wars, you don't get a lot of the stuff that we have today, whether it be story elements or special effects, really, like at all, like Lucasfilm and Industrial Light and Magic, like that's all.
Oh yeah, the things that Industrial Light and Magic has done to fucking the universe of filmmaking, it's just
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah. What you before we get to the other ones? What did you think of Rogue One?
Oh, Rogue One was
Briefly.
amazing.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it too.
It was, for my money anyway, it was the absolute perfect way to do a Star Wars film that did not include any of the major Star Wars characters that we're so used to seeing. Which is actually why I'm so nervous about seeing Solo. I haven't seen Solo yet. So, I mean...
I was gonna ask to see if you saw that yet.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, Rogue One I really liked because it was able to tell a story without the characters that we know and love, right, but still be tied in heavily to that story we know and love with the characters.
Yeah, I mean, even for people who have never watched what's it called? The Clone Wars cartoon series. Even for people who have never seen the Clone Wars series, the character of Saw Gerrera was still so captivating, and like you still get that, you know, that legendary feeling from him as a character of this is an important guy. And, you know, part of that is the casting, but also part of that is just how they write the character and how they present the character and stuff like that, which is really neat.
Yeah, and what I really liked what they did with that movie is they kind of made it like originally I thought they were kind of they wanted to go for like a heist movie, but they kind of just went like it was really like the only Star Wars we've had so far that had war in it. Like it was it felt more like a war movie.
Yeah, like it seemed like the only times we've ever seen any actual war type situation in Star Wars was in the prequels in space, you know, and then the war in the clones attacking Naboo and all that jazz. But I mean, that was kind of phoned in, you know, very clearly all CGI'd and stuff like that. So yeah, no, it was I don't know. I think it was perfectly done, and I can't understand anyone who had anything negative to say about it. Like, it's just so well done.
Yeah, and it definitely like it gave me hope for what like other Star Wars films could be,
for sure,
or a Star Wars story. I won't obviously talk about Solo too much since you haven't seen it yet, but I mean, for me, like it's a perfectly enjoyable movie. Like I saw it twice, once by myself, and then once with the kid.
Right.
And I think that is I don't know how many people took kids to go see it, but it was interesting seeing him watch it because like to him there's no preconceived notion of who Han Solo is. You know, he knows the character, he's seen the character played by Harrison Ford, but like at the end of the day, what does a 6-year-old care who Harrison Ford is?
Right.
So like to watch him watch it, like it made the movie experience even better, and made me enjoy it even more than I did the first go around. I think I don't know. I think if you're a Star Wars fan, you're gonna like it. I think I've seen people say that it's the best Disney era Star Wars, and that I don't know. I don't think it's a spoiler for me to say that they're wrong because I think they are.
Right.
But I don't think that means that it's a bad movie at all either. I think it's just I think a great non-spoiler review of that movie is I think it proves once again that you can tell a story in the Star Wars universe that's not about the Skywalkers,
right,
and is also doesn't it feels like a Star Wars movie, but it's also in a genre, like in a different genre. So like Solo kind of feels like a combination of a Star Wars film with like a car film, like a car racing film.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah, it, you know, that makes sense, especially considering the history of there's Harrison Ford and Ron Howard, and
Yeah.
basically they're how much of themselves they put into their films and stuff like that, and put into their characters and that sort of thing. There's very much that hot roddy ne'er-do-well feeling about Han Solo throughout the whole series and throughout the character. And I think as what I'm looking for as far as Solo is concerned is to I mean you say when you talk about genres, I mean Star Wars is basically becoming a genre all to itself. Like you can't even really
Yeah.
say that it's science fiction because yeah, it's sort of science fiction, but the people who work on these films put so much real shit into it, you know, uh, it becomes way more than that. So it's really about doing some cross genre stuff. So like when you say that Solo is sort of a car flick, about a guy like essentially what was that movie Driver with
Yeah.
Ryan what's
Yeah.
his face yeah. Um,
Hmm.
I can imagine that movie crossed over into the Star Wars universe, and it would still be an amazing movie. That sort of thing.
And I think that's where we're at with like these like maybe not quite with the Star Wars films yet. I do think that they need to be treated differently than the Marvel movies. Where like I think we're okay as an
Yeah.
audience getting Marvel movies, 3 times a year. Star Wars, I think, does need to stay at like once a year, and very specifically at least 12 months, I think, in between them, because that way it's still, I think Star Wars needs to feel special and it needs to feel magical to a degree. And if you're getting them every 5 months or every 3 months like you do a Marvel movie, it's you lose that.
Yeah, definitely. Like I like the way the thing about Marvel movies being so close together is that they make it work. It's all part of the same storyline and stuff like that. And generally it's all along the same timeline as well.
Yeah.
But with Star Wars sort of jumping from one spot of the timeline to another, it's really difficult. Like, what are we at? 2 movies a year for the last 3 years now, or some shit. So it's a little rough.
Yeah, well, yeah, Star Wars has been, I think, because I think Rogue One came out in December too. So for the most part, it's still been one movie a year.
Okay.
But then you had Last Jedi 5 months prior to
Right.
Solo. But the other three were, I think, about a year apart. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I actually honestly feel like maybe you go a year and a half. I don't know. It feels right. But I like the idea that like what they're doing with these Star Wars films to like change, like to combine it with the genres. And I think that's what. And again, I think more specifically, maybe the Marvel movies need to start doing this, and maybe they will come Phase 4. But like, things that the reason like Black Panther feels special is because it's not doing the same thing that every other Marvel movie has done, but it's still a comic book movie at the end
it's
of
still
the
a
day.
hero flick.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see New Mutants and see a horror movie with X-Men
hell
characters.
Yeah, for sure.
So I feel like that's like, I would love to see, especially since Marvel is potentially going to own everything but the Sony stuff, and I think Namor is still Universal. Like, potentially next year they're going to own almost all their toys again. I'd love to see them incorporate everything obviously into the MCU, but start taking different avenues to tell their stories and tell a horror movie with the X-Men, and tell maybe there's like a good like noir movie that they could do with one of their characters. Like I think that's what they need to do with Batman, like going to the other company. Like they need to do a $10 million movie that's a noir detective film, and see what happens. I would watch that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And like especially with pre-Batman characters, like if they did a Dick Tracy flick, for only 10 million, like that would be super slick, and give it to the Russo brothers, like that would be amazing. But like I feel like, you know, like we were talking about when we did the panel, we were talking about like Disney having their own streaming service.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
I would have rather seen the Han Solo story be like a 2-season show, or like a 3-season television show that I could stream, instead of trying to block it out into one movie, or do one movie and then maybe do a sequel in like 2 years, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I could see that working. And I think Mark
Oh,
Bedarnan
I love Mark
on
Bernard.
Twitter. Yeah, he had this great little tweet where he's like, "You remember that movie, The Last Crusade?" And they told the origin stories and hit all the check boxes in the first 15 minutes of the film. He's like, "That's all I
Right.
needed." And again, I don't think that's really spoiling anything to Solo, but that's just a take on someone that didn't maybe enjoy the film or didn't think, and that's, I think, like, Solo was really like, no one really asked for that movie. No one was like, "Hey, you know what we need? We need a Han Solo origin
Right.
story." Um, and I think that, I think there was a lot of things that went into why its performance was not as strong as it
Yeah.
could have been. I think it was the fact that The Last Jedi was a controversial movie, and with the fans, and this came out 5 months after that, and it also had a lot of controversy behind it.
Yeah.
Um, it was poorly marketed. Like, the Han Solo movie marketing didn't feature a lot of Han Solo.
Which is weird. I like, you know,
And
so I don't watch TV. Like, we have a
uh,
television, and we have Netflix, and we have Amazon Prime. That's what we've got. And
okay,
and I watch stuff on YouTube. But
yeah,
I saw almost nothing on Facebook, nothing on Twitter except for a couple of hashtags. When we were at the beach, we were watching the hotel TV, and we had, I was watching, a couple of things on the ESPN channels, and then we switched it over to the Disney Channel a couple of times for the little one. Never saw a single preview or anything for Han Solo. Like, the thing is in theaters. Nothing. I
yeah,
saw
yeah,
nothing. Uh, which means they weren't willing to put the money into, like, for instance, what I was watching on ESPN was the Warriors Cavs game 1. So obviously they weren't willing to put the money into advertising during that. And
yeah, yeah.
for some god awful reason, they weren't advertising it on the Disney Channel. Like,
Which you think they'd get a good
right?
deal with him?
I don't know, man. I don't know, but like I do get the sense that, and so, all right. Last thing about Solo, and then we should actually probably do an episode. Uh, but no, the main problem that I have going into a Solo origin story movie, and maybe this is an old school portion of my brain, but I am perfectly fine with certain things being left to the imagination. I am
Yeah, yeah,
perfectly fine only knowing Han Solo from, the original 3 movies, and then Force Awakens, and then the history, the legend of the character that has been built across those 4 movies.
yeah, yeah,
References to his past, previous, the relationships that he has that has been shown through the movie, like his relationship with Jabba the Hutt, and then knowing what Jabba the Hutt is as a character, and then his relationship to the lady at the bar, whose name I can never remember, and knowing that she is a very reputable individual in the Star Wars universe, whether, like, we have to give that over to that character. So him having those level of relationships with that level of character in across the board, plus the things that he has done within the movies themselves and the legends that have been told of him, you can construct that yourself. And that
Yeah.
feeds into why you love the character of Han Solo so much. So it's like every single one of us already knows that we love Han, and this just feels really extra and really
Yeah,
unnecessary.
yeah.
You know?
Yeah. But that all being said, it is, I still think it's a movie that if you're a Star Wars fan, you should see it, because, I mean, there was a time where we went a very long time without a Star Wars movie, or at the very least without a good Star Wars movie.
Right.
Depending on where you fall about those prequels. And this movie, is, despite where it might be in box office and ratings and whatnot, it's, I don't know, I think it might be number 4 in the post Disney world for me, but that doesn't mean it's bad. It's still I really enjoy that movie, and I think it's worth watching. I think it's worth exploring, just even if you look at it as just a contained experience versus as part of the greater story.
Yeah, and something that I did an episode of my podcast a few days ago, because I hadn't done it in a while, and I just wanted to talk about nerdy stuff. But one of the podcasts I listened to is called James Bonding, with Matt Myra and Matt Gorley, and something that they say about James Bond is something that I feel about, like, James Bond, like Power Rangers, like Star Wars, is and I'll put it in context of Star Wars, like any Star Wars movie, even the worst Star Wars movie, I will watch before any other movie. Like, if I had a choice between any other movie in the history of cinema and the worst Star Wars movie, I'm picking Star Wars. Like, that's just the way I am. So, I mean, I'm gonna go see it, and I'm gonna like it a lot, and I'm gonna watch it before I watch anything else. That sort of thing.
Yeah. I would be hard pressed for I mean, anyone that says that it's the worst Star Wars movie is out of their mind, first of all, and but yeah, I know I mean, we can probably leave Solo alone at that point, especially since I mean, we've talked, I think, 20 minutes on it, and you haven't even seen the movie yet. Well, I want to talk the festival a little bit, because that's where the whole reason that we're talking. And although everyday conversation with you is great, I believe this is your 3rd appearance on the show.
Maybe.
I know there is OG. Yeah, OG, Eagles, and then this one. So, and I mean, we met at the festival last year, the 5th annual festival. So this is what, your 2nd festival that you're doing?
Yeah, our 2nd time at the festival. And hold on, because this is my 3rd time on. The first time was for Eagles. The 2nd time was for the panel.
Oh, well, crap. No. Then this is the 4th time, because the panel I haven't aired yet. Because I had you were on post festival last year.
That's right. Yeah.
Prior to, so I would say sometime between, I guess, the festival and when Last Jedi came out. And then, we had you on right before the Super Bowl, then the panel, and now this. Yeah, so I forgot about the panel because I haven't. I don't know where that falls in line as far as when this is going to air. That may have already aired, or I may have pushed it back to after the festival, depending on how many fellow festival interviews I have this for this month. But yeah. So and you're doing the same one with your co-host, Poppin' Bottles, DADCAST.
Same one.
So now, but you do because I was always under the impression that was the one you did, but it seems like you do. What are the podcasts you do now besides
All
Pop
right,
and Bottles?
so while Ash was here, we rebooted a podcast that we started doing years ago called Brothers, which is just a weird way of saying brothers.
Yes.
Because we had the time to do it, but also just because I want to do it, because he and I could talk for hours and hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did our Brothers podcast, which I still have like 5 episodes that I haven't even aired yet.
Okay.
And then soon I'm going to be returning to a podcast that I do with my dad called Dad's in the Kitchen.
Okay, that's that.
Cooking stuff.
Okay.
But the main 2 are Poppin' Bottles DADCAST with my partner Nick Brown, and then my solo podcast, which is called The Kids Are All Right.
Okay, yeah, because I saw that. I saw you pop on Facebook Live with that.
Right.
And I was like, oh, man, that's awesome. He does a podcast with his kids. And then I started watching it before I had a meeting or something. So I didn't get very far into it, but I was like, oh, okay, clearly this is just a solo podcast.
Yeah.
Not to be confused with a solo podcast about the Star Wars film,
Right.
but
right.
which we did for the first 25 minutes. So you're coming back to the festival. We'll probably plug it at the end as well, but let's give it a quick plug while we're in the middle of the show so people actually listen to it.
Sure.
When is it and where and which venue?
It's at Tattooed Moms. Oh God, I have to look up the dates. It's on the Saturday.
It's and for those that want to find the schedule, it's at phillypodfest.com/schedule.
Right. Yeah, we could just do that.
Are you the first weekend or the second weekend?
I think it's the first weekend. Hold on. I made a calendar thing in Facebook.
Okay.
The 23rd.
Yeah, so you are the part of the opening day. Well, I guess technically it opens on the 22nd with that one show, but
right,
it is opening weekend festivities. I even though that the 22nd is happening, I still count the 23rd as like the beginning
opening
of
day
the
type of yeah.
And it's you are part of what looks to be, I guess it's a healthy mix of old and new podcasts. Okay. You're returning Quest for Magic and Steel, which is normally an amalgam, but they're gonna be a Tattoo Moms is returning. Highlander, it's mainly returners, returners. But yeah. So what do you guys? Because now last year was the first year you guys did it, and it sounded like, if I remember correctly, you guys kind of went in blind, right?
Yeah, we weren't really sure what to expect, and we decided to just do it the same way we do every episode, which is we get on Zencastr, and we briefly discuss the topics that we want to hit on, and then we just press record and go. Mm-hmm. We don't do any editing or anything like that. So we approached it the same way. This year we're a little more prepared.
Okay.
We ended up doing, what did we do? We did like a top 10 of something.
Last year was a top 10. Oh God, well, it was hilarious. And I it was funny because I feel like I was the only parent in the audience.
Right.
But oh God, I forget what it was.
I forget what it was. But so this year we're doing a top 10 of dad jokes.
Okay.
And then we're gonna do a Q&A in like the last half hour, 20 minutes or something like that. And then the rest of it, one of the great things is just, about me and Nick is just that we riff off each other so well, and we can just have that conversation that is endlessly entertaining to people who like to listen to people talk.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, I'm definitely like a key audience member for that, because I do like my favorite shows are just people sitting around talking endlessly.
Right. Yeah. Which seems weird, but you know, it is what it is.
Yeah, and I'll say that I have included like the healthy mix of like actual play podcasts into my lineup. They became like an anchor for me when I was going through, or I wasn't going through anything, but when my uncle was going through his battle with cancer,
Right.
and I was dealing with my feelings with that. I turned to specifically some one shot podcasts, but like Jeff Stormer with Party of One does an excellent, excellent one here in Philly, and he opened up. He really was kind of my true gateway, and he was, I guess, he was the weed. He was my gateway drug into actual play podcasting, and that's so I have a healthy mix of that. I started incorporating some true crime recently as well.
Right.
I don't know how. So as a fellow creator and consumer, when you listen to podcasts, do you listen? I listen to mine on 1.5 speed because I listen to like a lot of
Okay.
podcasts.
Right.
So are you? Do you find yourself at that point where you're like you are consuming too much and need to listen to everything quicker?
Not really. I mean, I can consume a fucking lot. There are certain ones that I want to do that with, and I should do that with. Like, so Bert Kreischer has his Bertcast, which is when he has on a guest, and then he also has one called Open Tabs, where it's just him talking,
Okay.
and he talks pretty fast as it is, but it's like he talks really fast when there's something to talk about, and then there are gaps. There's like dead air every once in a while, and sometimes it's more often than I feel comfortable with as a creator, you know? I almost wish I had his phone number just so I could be like, dude, please,
just cut it out.
Dear God, just fucking just edit a little bit of that dead air out, please. But no, I think the main reason I don't do that is because I'm drawn to like ID10T and Kevin Smith's podcasts primarily, and Mark Maron's podcasts, and they're all the ones that there really is no break in the conversation ever.
Yeah.
Like the conversation never moves slow with these people unless it fits what they're talking about, and then in that case I'm totally cool with it moving slow because that's what it needs, you know.
Yeah.
So I guess you could call me a patient.
Oh yeah, I'm not patient
podcast person. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not. I need to listen to it. I need to listen to it now, and it needs to be. I need to get it done so I can go to the next one. But like I'm setting myself up for like this like world of ruin when I finally like I haven't. I don't think I've talked to Jeff in person for like 6 months. Right. So for the last 6 months, my experience with talking to Jeff outside of like chat messaging and whatnot has been listening to him at 1.5 speed. So like, and every now and then I'll throw podcasts on just the normal 1x speed, and everyone sounds real weird and drawn out now. So yeah. I fear I'm ruining my listening experience just in the real world.
Yeah.
My Favorite Murder is a podcast that my fiance, who's not a podcast person, the only podcast she listens to is My Favorite Murder. She turned me on to it, and we drove down to South Carolina. My fiance is a LuLaRoe retailer. She sells those fun leggings that all the ladies like.
Yeah.
And she got an opportunity to shop the warehouse, which normally it's random. You get to go down to South Carolina sometimes and pick your own order. Right. So we left on a Monday night, came home on a Tuesday. It was an insane trip, but when we were both awake, we were listening to My Favorite Murder. And if I was driving, it was coming through my phone at 1.5 speed, to which she was like, oh my God, that's insane. It's hurting my ears. I'm like, what are you talking about? This is their normal voice. I've never heard Karen. Well, we'll just say, oh God, I'm brain farting on both names now.
I can never remember their names.
Karen, and it starts with a G. Fuck the my favorite murder girls.
Right.
They are wonderful hosts, and I really do enjoy their show and normally know their names. I'm going to blame the fact that it's almost 1 o'clock in the morning and I've been doing podcasts for many hours today.
Right.
And I woke up at 5 a.m. So we'll blame that. But I've never heard them at normal speed. So when she was driving, it sounded so slow. I'm like, wait a second. Like they sound like they're drunk and like high and like what's going on? So I'm literally ruining just real life experiences for me at this point.
And that all goes back to social media and then video games and then drugs.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. I feel like one of those is responsible for everything wrong with the world.
Right.
So have you guys like thought about doing shows outside of the festival? Like,
Yeah, definitely. Like, our first time at the festival was so amazing, even with the miniature crowd.
Yeah.
Like it was such an amazing experience. So, and it's something that we had talked about doing beforehand because we had been doing it, 3-4 years already up to that point.
Yeah.
So we talked about doing it a couple of times, but with his work schedule and my work schedule, it's just something that's really been difficult to work out unless we plan it, almost a year ahead of time, basically. So eventually we'll get to it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the scheduling of it can be hard. It's the thing that I've really kind of grown to love and appreciate is like not to worry about the crowd size, because at the end of the day, I don't think it really matters. Because I have had as little as like one person. No, that's not true. We most recently screened Army of Darkness and had we had a couple people for the pre-show.
Right.
But the main show, which was Everything Is Awesome, we had exactly 0 people stay for the podcast portion of it. And that turned into more of, well, we're just on location recording a normal podcast and whatnot. And like the guy who runs South Street Cinema hopped on and into the conversation. That was a lot of fun. Right. But like, I've done, crowds that were like just a handful to I would say the biggest crowd we've had was the Wizard World panel.
Right.
Yeah, I think there's just, you have to be prepared to do your show as a live show in front of a crowd that's going to be interacting with them, but you also have to be prepared for no one to show up and basically just do a modified version of your live show / normal show. And
right.
Yeah, so it's a fun balance that I've been trying to play with, especially since I've been jumping from like different formats of late night, which is what I'm going to be doing on July 1st with the festival, to actual plays, which we did for episode 100, which was a blast, to these panels that we've been doing at Greater Oaks and Wizard World, and was my intention for South Street Cinema, but it turned into just a normal podcast.
Right.
But yeah, so I don't know. You and I have talked so much about podcasting in the past that pop culture is our like sweet spot. In fact, like to the point where you and I have kind of teased doing our own version of like Fat Man on Batman, where it's just strictly a live show. I would love to do that. It's just a matter and that's like where I'm at with Everything Is Awesome, is like, well, I want to do a monthly show. Like 2019, I want to go monthly with it, with a live show. And how do I do that? Like, what's the proper way? I'm of the mindset that like maybe we do it at one single location for a monthly showcase. And then my co-host is like, well, I think maybe we take the different formats, and maybe like Tattooed Mom is like the monthly showcase, or like not a monthly, but a showcase for the late night show. And then Amalgam's a showcase for the actual plays, and South Street Cinema is a showcase for your panels and whatnot. So it's I'm trying to figure it out and whatnot, but like scheduling is obviously hard, and we have to figure that out. And same thing with like whatever we were talking about doing is like, we kind of have to figure it out and schedule it, and then I also have to like be willing to commit to doing something monthly that takes me out of the house,
Yeah.
which is rough and
Yeah.
whatnot. And,
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me as doing something monthly is just the drive down there.
yeah. So
But
yeah,
I mean,
where
at the same time, though, I do keep a spreadsheet of like business stuff that gets written off on my taxes, so I can just do that, and
Oh
it's
yeah, I
a
need to get on
never.
that game. I need to get in that game where
Oh, for
I'm writing stuff
sure.
off.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
You would think that, with 2.5 years doing this, I would just finally like LLC. Our like,
Yeah.
we have a general partnership. I don't know why we did that. We should have just went right to LLC. I think I was too spooked by the responsibilities.
Right, yeah. Which can be overwhelming at the beginning when you're setting everything up.
Yeah.
But from what I've heard, as soon as the setup is over, it's a breeze as long as you don't get any lawsuits.
Oh god. So before we wrap this up, what's your long-term plan with the podcast? Let's go with Poppin' Bottles. Or with all your podcasting really. Like where do you envision going? Like what's the end game for you like in the next, what's your what's a 5-year plan, 10-year plan? What do they tell you to come up with?
5-year plan usually, like, or have a 5 and then have a 10 and all that nonsense. I don't freaking know. No, it's just you know, if I had established as an LLC, that sort of deal, and actually turned it into, I do still think about turning it into it like an actual business. I want to create, basically my own version of the Kevin Smith Smod Castle, that
Yeah,
sort of
yeah.
deal. Or the Nerdist Podcast Network. I've always wanted to. I've always wanted to do something creative with my life, and since I found podcasting, basically, that is like, it's like I have found my calling. This is the
Yeah.
thing that I do best. That is my trade that I am the best at, and I should just do this for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
So as far as all the shows that I do, I really want to take them to the biggest that they possibly can be. I want to do, God, I want to do weekly episodes of all of them, and I want to do live shows for all of them. Dad's in the Kitchen that I do with my dad. I want to turn that into a web series. I want to film that. I want to make that a legit cooking show that we
I was,
do.
I was gonna say when you first mentioned that, I was like, that sounds like that sounds like a YouTube web series.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, and a great way to go into the Facebook Watch thing that is now growing, where you basically have your own TV show / YouTube channel, but it's on Facebook. Like, I really like what they're getting at as far as how they have it set up. So I would love to do something like that, and it'd be a really fun thing for me and my dad to do. And then, yeah, no, just as far as all the shows, and I just want to take it as far as it'll possibly go. Now, my solo show gets a little weird sometimes because it's just me,
Yeah, yeah.
but I think that's a perfect opportunity. One of the things that I've always dreamt about doing before I found podcasts or anything, one of the things that I've always dreamt about doing is what you would call it, late night. I
Oh
would
my god,
love to
yeah.
be a late night host. I would love to have my own late night show. Maybe someday in my distant future, I can weasel my way into being the host of the Tonight Show. I want to do something like that, and I mean, I have already worked out being comfortable on my own.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
So the next step would be to actually write the thing out and then have a set and then have an
Yeah,
audience and then have
yeah,
cameras, which are big steps to take,
yeah. Well,
but something that I would absolutely love doing.
It's funny because that's like with the birth of like the version of the live show that we did for like I said until episode 100 was we got accepted to the Philadelphia Podcast Festival in 2016. To which I was like, holy crap, that's amazing. I can't believe they accepted us. And then I realized they really just accept everybody as long as you're from Philly or the greater Philly area. I think this year the only reason they turned some people away, if they did, and I'm only assuming they did because we had 65 shows last year and we're down to 50 this year, is because it seems like that like a couple of venues weren't able to commit to both weekends. So I think they lost some studio space for the live shows this year. But in 2016 we got accepted, and I was talking to my buddy. I was like, listen, man, I can't do my show up there like like I normally do. I can't go up there and talk for an hour with one guest. I feel like that's cheating the audience. So like, what do we do? Like, I was like, I feel like I need you up there as my co-host and whatnot. He's like, yeah, totally. We can do something like that. And I was like, and up until that point, like I had mentioned several times about wanting to start something like my own late version of late night. And so I was like, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? And this was like, maybe like 2 months out from the podcast. He's like, well, I don't know. Like, you always talk about doing late night. Just do a late night show. I'm like, oh my God. Like he dropped the fucking mic. I was like, oh dear God, that makes the most sense ever. And that's why like our live show is typically, sectioned out like a monologue and then like banter between him and I. We try to play a game, then we have the first guest, right, and then we have the second guest. And I have a lot of improvement. I feel like the live shows are a lot of fun, especially at Tattooed Moms, and I have a good experience with the late night model that I do, but that is the one out of the three that I do, that actual play and panels, that needs the most work, because I'm just, I'm not a comedian. I don't fancy myself a comedian, and you need to have you need to be able to write like a little small monologue, I think, to do a successful late night show. So I'm struggling to find my place in that market, but I'm going to say, like, I don't know that I would want to do the Tonight Show. That's a lot of pressure.
It is a lot of pressure. Yeah.
but I would totally just, I've actually said recently that I want to be the host of the Joel McHale show when he retires from Netflix.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So yeah, I 100% want to be titled the Joel McHale show with Kevin Gallagher.
That's
my
perfect.
Dream. Like that's my dream.
Yeah.
And
I always
that's not late night at all, but
right. Yeah, I always figured if I was gonna do a late show or something like it on, and just broadcast it on the internet, I was going to call it something like not another night, Tonight Show, or like the Tonight Show with Ben Mullen, and then in parentheses, no, not that Tonight Show, something like that.
That's good. I like that. I like the not another. Like, I feel like and maybe that's too on the nose, but I also come from that generation where I grew up with, like, there was a movie called Not Another Teen Movie.
I remember Not Another Teen Movie. Yeah, reruns on Comedy Central for days.
Yeah, I don't remember that movie. I just remember it being a thing.
Right.
But yeah, I would love, like, that's. I feel like at some point you and I really need to sit down and collaborate on something, because if it wasn't the similar looks and the that we have and the similar interests,
personality,
I feel like why there's no reason that we shouldn't be collaborating, and yet, like, a year later we still have yet to do it.
Yeah, we'll get there. We'll figure something out. But we're parents and we have jobs, and so the reason I was a little bit late tonight was I just found out that my boss has been fired.
Oh,
and that the position is open and posted on the website. So I quick had to write up a resume.
Yeah, hop on that.
I had to hop on a resume and a cover letter real quick and just polish that up and all that jazz. So yeah.
Well, that being said, it is I find it hard to go the full 2 hours. I think the last time, well, not the last time we talked, but like the first time we talked, like
Right.
a little under a year ago, I think we went pretty long. But oh
Right.
man, I'm feeling the old man age, and that, or it's just the extra weight I've been carrying the last few months here. So
Oh man, I have been struggling something awful, and we just had our vacation. So
yeah.
for a week straight, I was eating nothing but fudge and French fries,
Oh
and
god.
I'm just on a whole nother level
I,
exhausted.
I'll tell you what, I have been always the guy that could figure out what he had to cut out, which is usually the soda, like just cut out my sugar. And that's
Right.
soda's always been my big like weak spot, and the biggest source of my sugar. Coffee's is is in there now too as I get older, but I was always able to like drop that soda, and usually drop like 25 pounds in 2 weeks.
No, yeah,
Uh,
definitely.
but since like the beginning of this year, I've had a real hard time dropping weight, and it's probably because I haven't had the willpower to actually like give up things completely. So we had family on both sides, Jen's side, my side, join Weight Watchers and find really good success and whatnot. So we were talking about it. I was like, I don't know, I don't feel like I need to pay to lose weight, like. And I was like,
Yeah,
I'll just
you don't.
yeah, well, I was like, I'll just, if you're gonna join, I'll just like piggyback off that. And then she told me, like, she found out, like, she dropped this knowledge on me of like, yeah, once you hit like your goal weight and you're there for like a month or something, like you stop paying. I'm like, wait. So like eventually I don't have to pay. And she's like, right. Oh, well, then I might be like in it, because then it's like kind of like a game. And so we did
Right.
join. We joined actually. I mean, I know it's technically Friday now, but we joined about a week ago, last Thursday.
Right.
It's been great. Like it actually is working. Like, I mean, it's only been a week, so I guess it's hard to like. I shouldn't get on that bandwagon yet, but like I said, all the rest of my family and her family have been doing it, and they've been losing tons of weight.
Right.
And yeah, like we both dropped over 6 pounds in this first week.
Nice.
So yeah, so like it's the most weight I've dropped, in a single like attempt of doing stuff in over a year. So it's it's silly to pay for it, but I'm willing to do it because like they give you this app that just makes everything so easy.
Yeah, and I mean it's the commitment, whatever you have to do for the commitment to that. And a lot of people will say, well, no, duh, you should commit to it. It's your health, it's your well-being, it's your life. Well,
Yeah.
that's not so easy. Like you try to make it sound easy, but it's really not that easy. So whatever you have to do to solidify that commitment to just being better for yourself, go out there and do it. But the main thing for me and my family lately has been fasting. Intermittent fasting
Mm-hmm.
has been like crazy awesome.
Yeah, I can't. I've tried it in the past, and I just can't do it.
It's horrible. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm fucking depressed. It's horrible, but at the same time, I lost 30 pounds in a week and not in a week and a half, 2.5 weeks.
Yeah.
So it's,
Yeah, what I like about Weight Watchers, and I don't want to like be this guy, so I'm going to try not to be. But me
Right.
personally, what I like about it is that like this program that they're using now, like it's not pushing like a diet on you. It's more so pushing like eat what you want, look it up, and just don't go over your points and whatnot.
Right.
And and it literally is. And I guess if you take it serious enough, like I am, it was literally teaching you how to re-eat, like how to eat properly. Like
Yeah.
I used to slather cream cheese on my bagel because it tasted so good, but like looking at like what a full serving size is, which is like 2 tablespoons, and how many points that is, it's like, all right, well, let me just like let me put it on until it looks like it's tasty enough. And I would do that, and I would eat it, and I enjoyed it. And like, it was like, I used a third of what the serving size was, or like realizing that I don't need from Panera Bread a half a sandwich and a soup and a bread bowl. Like I can deal with a cup of soup, and
Right.
my body will function just fine. So like, it's learning that I was just eating too much for the sake of eating too much, and like I don't know, reteaching myself that I should pay attention to serving sizes and stuff.
Right.
Yeah, so it's neat in that way, and that's like why I like it. And I would honestly like if I stopped going to the meetings and stuff, I would easily pay like the online cost just for the online tracker, because it's I think it's worth it.
Yeah, and that's one of the great things about trying to be better about fitness in this. I don't want to say in this generation, but at least in the last 10 years, is that despite the fact that a lot of people say that we're addicted to our phones now and addicted to apps and that sort of thing, it is still a tool, and it can still help us. And the development of stuff like that, and especially with wearables like the Apple Watch and stuff like that, the ability to track your progress and the ability to help you pay attention and help you focus, because that's really the hardest part, is just, you can take in all the information, but being able to focus in the hardest times when your cravings are at their worst, if you have a little something that's going to remind you, that's going to urge you on to keep going and keep, losing weight or gaining muscle or whatever your thing is, whatever your goal is, whatever keeps reminding you of your goal, that's important. That's a useful tool.
Yeah, and it's like it's made me like try new things. Like my new favorite like snack is these garden or these vegetable tortilla chips with salsa.
Right.
It's I don't know that it's like it's just not salty. It's not salty like regular tortilla chips.
Yeah.
And I've always been a fan of the veggie straws. Like they're like a legitimate delicious snack, even when I wasn't dieting or anything. So like the veggie, and it's filling. Like again, it's crazy. I'm that crazy person that counts out the serving size now. So like serving size is 15 chips. So I count out 15 chips because I'm insane.
Right. Yeah.
But honestly, again, like I don't know if the purpose of Weight Watchers is to teach you to do this or not, but like I'm doing it because I'm insane. And that snack, like it's usually what I eat between like 3 and 5 when I'm still at work and before I leave to come home. And I'll usually eat it right about 3 o'clock, and it holds me over till dinner. Like it's those 15 chips plus some salsa, is I don't know. It's neat. Like realizing how I was a sugar addict and a food addict, and now like that I realize that I can be better. I am.
Being more conscious of my addiction to sugar, and then, being more conscious of using food to try to cure my depression.
Yeah. That's huge.
Those were good realizations to have. And, I still have my down moments. When I'm feeling sad, I eat a tasty cake. That sort of thing.
Well, and what's awesome about the program is that like if it happens, it happens. Like there's and this is more like you don't even have to call it Weight Watchers. If you're just good at portion control and you're good at counting calories, which is all I'm doing on Weight Watchers is a modified version of counting calories.
Right.
If you're good at that, like if you and that's where I've had success before. Like I used to, it wasn't obviously anything official, but I would just count calories in this like weird fitness app that I had, and doing that and like paying attention to what I was eating portion size, like I was losing weight. What the problem was back then, like if I let myself go off the the wagon and say, oh, I'm just going to eat this tasty cake, then like everything went downhill for me. So like in the last week, I've still enjoyed like a slice of pizza, and I've enjoyed like sugar-free pop, like a chocolate fudge pop that still tastes really good.
Right.
I never thought I would enjoy no sugar or I think sugar-free syrup, but oddly enough, the natural sugar in maple syrup is plenty of sugar.
Right. Yeah.
Who knew? So yeah, it's at 33 going on 34. It's I guess I'm finally, I say this a lot when things happen, but I think I'm finally understanding this adult thing.
Oh yeah, I always figured that eventually the whole being an adult thing would start to make sense. But once I realized that we're all just kind of bullshitting, the
Yeah,
whole
yeah.
fake it till you make it thing.
Mhm.
Once I realized it was just that, it's been working out. It's been working out.
And like, what's I feel like it's gonna be weird seeing our generation retire because like, I say this a lot like to my fiance. It's like, am I still gonna be playing video games when I'm in my 50s
Right.
or 60s? Am I gonna like for me like when I get home from work, I want to like kind of like. I want to unwind. I want to get in my basketball shorts.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I was like, I can't wait till like, I started early enough at my current job that is not knock on wood my forever home where I can have the ability to retire all my 20 years in. I can retire at 55 if I want. So
Right.
like I fully plan on retiring at 55 and wearing basketball shorts
Yep.
all year round. 'Cause,
Yeah.
yeah, we were talking about our neighbors who are very elderly wearing sweaters all year round. I was like, I think that's insane. Like, how are you cold in the middle of summer? Like, I want to, like,
Right.
when I'm shoveling, I wear basketball shorts. Like, I don't get it.
And like as far as saying about being a retiree, being an old man and playing video games, there is gonna be a day way down the line in the future when you go into an old folks home. You go to visit grandpa, and you go into grandpa's room, and he's sitting there playing God of War on
Yeah,
his old PlayStation 4.
yeah, yeah.
There's gonna be a day when the generations of people who are in old folks' homes are gamers, and they're still interested in that, and that is what they have left to do, despite the arthritis. And
It's
they will game themselves into oblivion. Yeah.
it's funny because and we'll end on around this note, I guess. I was thinking today because I'm going to be turning 34 in just over a month, which means my co-host Mike, my best friend, he turns 35 the day before I turn 34.
Nice.
Uh, and like I've always judged like kind of age by like media and like the key demo has always kind of been that 18 to I believe 35 range, and
Right.
and that's when I feel like I'm old. Like it's like, oh my god, I'm going to be out of that demo soon. But the good news. I looked it up today because again I'm insane,
Yep.
and everything I've seen about the key demo when it comes to TV primetime especially, it's been up to 49. It's 18 to 49.
Yeah.
So I guess again, the generation now is running things, and we all love TV into our old age now.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah,
so
and it's that point sort of crosses over into a lot of the Disney Channel stuff that my daughter has been watching. I'm actually interested in because the writers of those shows are people who are my age,
yeah, yeah,
and they have my sense of humor, and it's weird.
yeah. My son, he doesn't watch. He's more of a Netflix kid now, and very rarely pays attention to the Disney Channel. Even on like on his tablet, he has like the Disney Now app so that he can
Right.
watch all those Disney shows, and he doesn't really pay attention to it. But when the last time we went to Disney, he was watching this weird show like Allison's, not Allison Mack, but I don't know, some weird Allison something other show.
Oh, Alex Mack.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then
Yeah.
we got into it. Like I got into it with him. I was like, oh, this is actually a good show. Uh,
Yeah.
so it
We're
is
we're
weird
big
when I like his shows.
yeah, we're big Liv and Maddie fans around here.
Oh my god! All he's
We're
got,
Liv and Maddie house.
yeah. He loves Bunked and Jesse, and he does put on Liv and Maddie too. He'll throw that
Yeah.
on Netflix every now and then, and I'm like, oh my god,
Nice.
what are you? Why are we watching this?
What is
Uh,
this?
and I mean I'm not Liv and Maddie. I haven't really gotten into, but I haven't given it a chance. But like when he turns Bunked on and I walk by, I'll linger and watch and say,
Yeah.
eventually sit down next to him and I'll watch with him and whatnot. Yeah, kids influencing us. What do you how
I'm
how
gonna
can we?
thunk it. Yeah.
All right, let's wrap this up. Give out all your plugs for what you're doing, and make sure you include that podcast festival plug.
Oh, hell yeah. In fact, I'll do that first. So is the Papa Bottles DADCAST, which I think on the schedule is just listed as Poppin' Bottles, and that is at 3 o'clock at Tattooed Moms on the, what was that, the 26th?
Either the 23rd or 30th.
23rd. No, it's the 23rd. It's a Saturday in the middle of the day if you're hanging around Philadelphia and you want to go see a free show at an awesome venue. Tattooed Moms, 3 o'clock, me and my buddy Nick Brown, and we talk about parenting stuff. You can check that out on iTunes as well as my other podcasts, The Kids Are All Right. And you can follow me on the tweets and the Instagrams at @BKMullen_.
How angry are you? Does someone else have I think I probably asked you this before, but does someone else have just at BK Mullen?
Okay.
Does someone else have it, or did you? Oh,
yeah. No, somebody else has it, and I am even made more furious because it's an egg. It's,
that's the worst.
It is nobody. Somebody is sitting on my name. It's infuriating.
I forget what hand it may have been. Kevin, it was, I think, a version of my name I saw, and it was an egg. And I emailed Twitter, or I don't know maybe I opened up a ticket. I was like, hey, is there any way? And like, they either didn't respond or they just said, no, get out of here. Hence the reason I am at that nerdy Kev.
Right.
And where else can we find you in your stuff?
So I actually started a new website a little while ago called the 9732. It's at www.the9732.com, and it's forming, I'll say. Okay. It's got some blog posts. It's got some. It's pretty much the home of everything that I do. So it's really the best one to point to. You'll find all of my podcasts that I do and all of the episodes that we've ever done of each podcast, including Poppin' Bottles, as well as some blog posts and links to my other work. I'm also a dad blogger. I'm a parent blogger through earthversusben.com, and also shout out to Life of Dad, who I write with every once in a while. They're a great site and a great resource for other dads.
And of course, eventually, That Entertains will be revving up the interviews, the reviews there. You
absolutely, yeah. I so far so good. I've been having a great time with it for the little bit that we've been able to do over the past couple of weeks. And I mean, come on! I get to review comics. Are you kidding me? Oh no! Twist my fucking arm! Yeah.
And eventually, like we'll have enough writers under us so that like I can be really like, hey man, you really need to get like a tight grip on them because you volunteered. I don't know if you volunteered. I may have volunteered you to be the editor-in-chief for the comic book reviews, but whatever.
It seemed like you already had that idea in your brain. Yeah. But again, you know, twist my fucking arm to get me to do something like that. Seriously.
I just didn't want to do it. That's what it came down to. It was like,
right. Yeah.
I'm barely going to write on time. I can't be in charge of it.
By the way, I just want to do it. I just looked it up real quick. Shout out to @BK Mullen. Byron Mullen, who has 5 followers and whose last tweet was that August 2015. Previous to that, his 2 other tweets, because he only has 3, was 2 tweets in 2009 where he misspelled Rihanna twice. So special shout out to that person. I will be emailing Twitter shortly.
I feel like you should be able to email Twitter and be like, listen, they're not using it. Like,
Come on, this is my brand. I've got over 2,000 followers now. Like, can I please just have this?
Yes. All right. BK, thanks for doing the show. And good luck at the festival.
Yeah, you too. And I guess I should mention that I didn't even realize we were recording until like 20 minutes ago. So so great convo and great episode. I look forward to listening back to it.
Yeah, we've been recording for an hour and a half.
Lovely.
Okay, guys. What you don't know is I'm walking around doing these intros and outros just back to back because I have a few interviews recorded. And I'm wearing a long sleeve shirt, wearing my khakis, I'm wearing Converse, so not the best walking sneakers. And I'm just walking around in this 90-degree weather doing these outros and intros and stuff. And I'm working up a sweat. I'm working up a little bit of a sweat. But that's good. That's a good thing. I need to burn some calories. I need to get my fit points in. I need to get my extra steps in to be a better calf. Build a better calf. Build a better you. However you think is the best way to do that. For me, it's combined a little bit of exercise and Weight Watchers has been doing great for me. Anyway, so big thanks to BK Mullen for doing the show. Make sure you check out his show, Poppin' Bottles DADCAST at Tattooed Moms, 3 p.m. on June 23rd. That's again, 3 p.m. on June 23rd at Tattooed Moms. He is performing as part of the Philadelphia Podcast Festival. You can go to phillypodfest.com/schedule to find the complete schedule across various venues like a Malcolm Compton Coffee House, Tattooed Moms, the Ruba Club, Red Caps games. So many different venues. There's, I think, about 6 or 7 venues hosting over 50 shows. It's going to be a good time. Check it out, phillypodfest.com/schedule. Make sure you come out to Tattooed Moms on July 1st and check Everything Is Awesome out. We are going to be kicking off the last day of the festival, as I said earlier in the show, 1 p.m. July 1st at Tattooed Moms. We're going to be playing Food Fright, where 4 people will have an opportunity to play a game challenge, a food challenge, and win a prize. This will be a good time. You can also support our show in various different ways. It's like patreon.com/thatentertains, a subscription service. It's kind of like an ongoing Kickstarter. Every dollar you subscribe to us goes right back into the podcast network, into That's Entertainment and Crude Humor Studios to help produce more content for you, exclusive content for Patreon users. So please, please, please consider doing that. I understand if money is tight, you can always go to iTunes and leave a 5-star rating and review. And that helps Apple Math make us in front of more people, more eyes, more ears. It means more people are finding the show, which means more people are listening and potentially helping support this show so we can do live shows like we do every year at the festival, so we can do panels, and so we can do all these fun things that we do. And word of mouth recommendations, guys, of course. Make sure That Entertains, I forgot to mention that BK Mullen is our editor-in-chief when it comes to our comic book reviews, the That's Entertainment Comics Universe, the TECU. So he's helping make sure our reviews look great and whatnot. So make sure you check out That Entertains, because we're having at least weekly comic book reviews that usually spread out between Wednesday and Fridays. And it's such a fun little project that we picked up. I really enjoy it, and I'm glad that I got BK there to help me make sure that it's running smoothly. Ash is a great reviewer. BK is a great reviewer. When I actually write my reviews, I think I'm a pretty great reviewer. So check all that out on thatentertains.com. Of course, you can find this show on awesomepodcast.com. We are part of the Core Temp Arts Podcast Network on coretemparts.com. Find us on Twitter at RealAwesomePod. Find me on Twitter at ThatNerdyKev. Whew, guys. Oh, my God. Whew. We've been awesome.
Thank you for listening to the Core Temp Arts Podcast Network. To listen to more Core Temp Arts shows, visit coretemparts.com.